What's up, everybody? This is Phil from Chico, and you're listening to the Mitch Please podcast. Please subscribe, please like, and please share with all of your friends.
Mitch Please, since 2016. Flying with angels, dancing with devils, caught in between a saint and a rebel. Trying to live my best life, go into it like a WWF fight. And the fans are screaming, they got my back like I'm really beaming. So beam me up, Scotty, kicking down doors like I know karate. I got the fuego like Mojave, getting high is my hobby. Mitch Please in 2016. Podcast so ill, it might catch a body. Can't no one harm me. It would take more than the army to stop Mitch Valentine from doing what he gotta do. He stays on his grind. R.I.P. Joe Rogan. Y'all better know that we coming. We ain't ever running. So turn up the sound and keep it 100. Keep it 100. Mitch Valentine, keep it 100. Keep it 100. Mitch Please podcast, keep it 100. Now chill. Yeah, hashtag make dreams happen. Pro Championship Entertainment. At Heartbreaker MV. At ECE since 2015. Yeah, follow your dreams, y'all. Mitch Please since 2016.
We are here live at the Brad Pad, immediately following AEW's debut event, Double or Nothing. We just sat here for almost 5 hours and watched it all go down. We're going to talk about AEW Double or Nothing. We're going to talk about the state of wrestling as a whole. But first, I want to just welcome back to Mitch Please. The guy's been on the show many times. One of my best friends, Bradley Rotten. What's going on?
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me again.
Dude, thanks for having me over for another night of pro wrestling. And what'd you think, man? AEW Double or Nothing?
I'm not sure that my brain has wrapped around, I don't know if I've formed an opinion. It was interesting. I think what I end up going back to is, I guess in terms of complaints or things that I didn't like about it, is I keep going back to, well, it was their first pay-per-view. So, it leaves me to be even more anxious to see kind of where the company's going to go, how things are sort of going to unfold. And I also kind of, like we were talking earlier, I kept saying, well, they haven't really developed anything yet. There hasn't, it need time. We need time to be able to get into they've got 2 other pay-per-views coming after this one. And then, of course, they're going to have their weekly television show. And so, I feel like a lot of holes need to kind of be filled, and there's a lot of story that need to be told, and a lot of character development.
Character development, dude. No, exactly. I agree with you. I mean, they had YouTube as how they basically built everything up, was all the stuff they were doing on YouTube and the road to Double or Nothing, and it was weird, man. There was no backstage interviews. There was really no promos except for in ring with Cody and Jericho, and I thought MJF was great. To just talk about the positives, I mean, those are the 3 things that stand out to me as the positives of the show was the Cody Dustin match, the MJF promo, and the Jericho main event. I'm going to just call it the Jericho main event. I know Omega was there too, which of course led to Moxley coming out. I mean, were those some of the highlights for you, or was there some other stuff that stood out?
Well, I think if you didn't see the pay-per-view, you could probably guess that Dustin and Cody was a highlight, and it was. Even to the, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but there was a promo at the end that was very, it was kind of touching, and it was kind of exciting, and it was kind of, gave me that little feeling of being a kid again and being excited about wrestling. It was and it was a really, really good match. But yeah, I think all the obvious things were, to me, and I don't mean this insulting to any of the talent or the overall product that is AEW, because I think for their first, well, I guess technically it's their second, but it's the first AEW product under the name AEW. For their first pay-per-view, I feel like there was some things that were kind of a lot of filler, but I think they felt like filler because, again, back to like character development and the process of things that we're going to have to invest our time into. I think there really wasn't a whole lot other than Jericho and Omega and Dustin and Cody to really sink your teeth into and invest your real interest in. Everything else was kind of like almost like a highlight. Okay, this is AEW, this is what we're about, this is sort of the style we got, this is the type of thing we're going to do. And it seemed to be that way all across the board. And I also thought it was a little weird that a lot of the matches were tag matches. But again, back to that thing again. It's going to take them a little bit of time. This is something that we're, as wrestling fans, we're going to have to invest our time into. One thing I can say though is it didn't all feel like just a typical indie show. It had good production value. Well, I don't want to get into commentary, but I do agree with there's a lot of little classic wrestling, simple wrestling elements that weren't there.
Let's get into the commentary, man. I mean, I thought it was great to see Jim Ross, and I just thought the other guys were not good. I mean, I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't want to be talked bad about anybody. That's my hang-up. I don't want to just shit all over somebody. But honestly, you can tell that JR had a really hard time working with those two, and I'll blame it on that. Not very many three-man commentary teams work out well. I really do think, we were talking about it earlier, we were kind of fantasy booking or fantasy, what would we do if we were in charge, and we had threw out some names, Jim Cornette, which, is always a great counterpart for Jim Ross, somebody to kind of debate and argue with, or even a
Josh Matthews, Taz,
yeah,
Matt Stryker. I mean, there's so many other options they could have thrown in there with JR, I thought. But I mean, yeah, like you said, we'll keep this as positive as we can as we talk about the state of wrestling and this AEW event, man. The women I thought were all right. It was cool to see Awesome Kong. I really like Britt Baker. I think Brandy is incredible to watch.
I heard 4 hours of how you thought Brandy was incredible. I do think overall, I have a feeling that my second time around watching it, I'll look back on the pay-per-view and I'll probably find a handful of other things that I didn't notice before that I enjoyed. But I think what I wanted to stand out and what I was hoping to enjoy really did sort of stick out. And I mean, the Cody Dustin Rhodes match was just phenomenal.
Incredible.
I would say it tore the house down. It was the stealer of the show. I honestly, and nothing against Omega and Jericho, because they sort of surprised me too. You had said something while you were watching it that I really didn't think about it, but they hadn't wrestled since Wrestle Kingdom.
Wrestle Kingdom, yeah.
Yeah, so it had been a long time. So with that in mind, like, it was the match was impressive for the fact that they really hadn't wrestled in a long time.
I liked it. Jericho was doing things a lot of people weren't doing, like working the crowd and grabbing a hold. But no, like seriously, I mean, I feel going into this, it was a 2-match show, and I was hoping for Moxley, and here it is, it's over, and it was a 2-match show, and we got Moxley. So I mean, for me, I think you're going to hear, if you listen to other podcast or just anybody in the wrestling community is going to tell you Cody Dustin was amazing. I think it's the match of the year. It's worth watching again. And Jericho Omega was good, and it was great to see. It was great to see Moxley, man, and it was what it was. It'd be interesting to see how they what they do going forward. You know, they've in next month or in a couple months or whenever their next show is, because it wasn't very clear about when their next event was.
Right.
So
that was another thing that was. Again, I'm not trying to talk all bad about it because it was good. But, there was just, I think there were obvious where we are a new entity, we're a new company. I think that's the general overall thing I get from it. And it's not bad. It wasn't like drizzle shit's indie backyard wrestling, not at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think there's little, like they would say in the movies, there's little plot holes, little things that like, I thought within the production there would be like a little more of like advertisement for the next show, a little more video packages. I definitely felt like if I were all fans really aren't knowing anything about AEW, so I felt like I really didn't get to know any of the wrestlers. There were, like we said, there were no promos, and that kind of breaks my heart because you know how I am with promos. I just love the art of the promo and telling your story through that. There were like no backstage interviews, and the one that was a backstage interview, there was like no microphone.
Yeah, it wasn't a pre-show.
It was a pre-show. It was sort of like
the Battle Royal was weird too because like 5 guys would come out at once. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of weird things, a lot of kinks that need to be worked out. But
a lot of experimental stuff. It felt like. They, not in a bad way, I think they probably set out to go, okay, how can we make this different?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe they might have even sat down and said, okay, well, what have we been seeing for the past couple decades? How do we do something a little different from that? Yeah. So I don't necessarily think all of it was bad. I think that what they did try to do was overall generally good. I think they tried to put on a different product. I think, as far as the aesthetic of the show, it was really simple. It did kind of remind me a little bit of that old WCW. It had that old school. It did have elements that I really liked that the old guy in me really enjoyed, where it was like a little bit of old school wrestling. Yeah. But there were other things too that were very new school, where it was like it was a very blurred line on like I remember a couple matches we were watching and you were like, wait, who's the heel? Who's the baby face?
There's not any heels, really. There's MJF and there's Jericho, and there's no really other heels. But I will say this, because I want to move on. I want to talk about some other things going on in wrestling. I think you got to give respect to Cody, man. Because, I mean, I think he had the match of the night at All In back in September. His promos have been awesome. His business ethics and everything he's doing behind the scenes and all the work he's putting in is awesome. And then tonight at Double or Nothing, he had the match of the night again, and threw that little shot on Triple H, which I thought was fun and gave the fans something to talk about. So much respect to Cody, and I'm we'll be watching. It was what it was.
I if I was to give an overall review of the card, I wouldn't say it was. I think my little bit of disappointment is it's. Almost like seeing a movie where all of the really great parts were in the trailer a little bit, where like there's just that slight little bit of disappointment, but maybe that's because in our own minds, or in my own mind, I kind of oversold it a little to myself, and I really wanted this spectacular show, and it was spectacular. It was historical. It was something different and something new, but I think. Also, in a good way, there was a lot left open, which makes me even more intrigued because I'm anxious to see where they go with all this. Because now everything that happened tonight is going to lead to other storylines, and it's going to open doors for other things. And I hope it opens doors for more talent. I know that we were throughout the show we were talking about there was a lot of talent tweeting and talking and discussing it. So I think. Their goal was met in like they stamped in the wrestling industry, and the wrestling industry is now talking about them. So for the next month, it's going to be a lot of talk about AEW. I think they achieved their goal in getting people stirring up that, hey, we're an exciting new vision in wrestling.
Yeah.
And so I overall thought it was a pretty good pay-per-view. There were just some things, I guess, quirks or things that maybe anyone who's like a music fan or whatever, you hear an album by a certain band and you have complaints, but you still like the band because you're still an overall fan of a band. So I feel that way about this, where like I still love wrestling and I'll always love wrestling, but I think there were some things that just kind of didn't make sense to me, or could be little complaints. But then keep in mind, we're fucking wrestling nerds, so like, all wrestling nerds complain about shit because there's always something to kind of have an opinion on. But overall, in the end, I thought it was a pretty good pay-per-view. I'd even go as far as to say it was worth the money we put into it.
I mean, you can't.
For the evening,
you can't undersell that Cody Dustin, man. Match of the year, man. Really, I can't think of a better match I've seen this year. And going back to last weekend, I thought Money in the Bank was good. I don't know. Did you watch that?
No, I did not. Unfortunately, I didn't see it. To be honest with you, I hate to say this, because usually, I mean, I watch enough wrestling to even just know what's going on, even if I kind of miss some things, or, I get up and cook dinner or whatever and miss a segment. I really kind of spaced it. I hate to say it, but I totally spaced it, and then I caught myself up watching Raw the next week.
Right.
And so I was kind of like lost in like, but I feel like I didn't miss too much.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll just watch like YouTube highlights, because to watch Raw for 3 hours and SmackDown for 2 is just a lot of time. But no, I watched it, and like if you watch anything, man, definitely the main event men's ladder match, and the AJ Styles Seth Rollins match was good. Brock Lesnar's the Money in the Bank guy. I mean, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot going on in WWE. They're doing the wild card rule. I mean, I feel like they're kind of a little maybe under pressure for their ratings. The ratings haven't been too good, but I feel like it's like that every year after WrestleMania. The ratings go down and the storylines kind of, they start from scratch and they build things back up. But one thing I've really been enjoying, I think, is the Bray Wyatt fun house, the Firefly Fun House. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have, and I know this sounds weird, but and I had spoke to somebody else about this. I still haven't formed an opinion on it. Like, there's parts of me that really like it because it's different and it's kind of creepy. It's like a creepy Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, Blue's Clues.
Yeah, and it really touches on that, like, almost it's almost got like a serial killer, creepy, like child, like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to say child molester, but that horror movie kind of like where he's playing mind games with you, but with children's programming.
Well, you don't want to say it, but you said it.
I did, yeah, I did. But it's got that.
It's got that vibe.
And
did you see the big reveal with the new kind of gear and the gimmick that Bray's rocking now, with like the mask or the face paint, and he looks like like a creepy serial killer. Did you see it?
Kind of, yeah. I like it, but then I don't know. It's just I'm almost indifferent on it. I don't want to say that I hate it, because I don't hate it, but I just don't know what to think of it. But I like it because it is different. It's something, and it's about time they did something different with him. Yeah. They were kind of doing the same thing, and I think the fans were sort of picking up on it and kind of like got a little tired of it.
They just kept doing the same thing, and then nothing different though. He'd talk for 15 minutes and then he wouldn't go anywhere. I mean, he did get the WWE title, but no, I'm interested to see where he goes. And I just feel I'm a 20-year wrestling fan. I know you're probably like a 35-year wrestling fan, but I just feel at this time of the year when we hit the summer, it's like, all right, man, what's going to happen at SummerSlam, right? Like, what's our big angles going into SummerSlam? And it's early. It's barely June, but I think that you gotta go with with Brock Lesnar. I just don't see a bigger star in the company than Brock Lesnar. And my question is who do you put in there with Brock? Do you do Roman again? Do you do Rollins? Do you do Kingston? I mean, where do you go? Because there's only so many people left that are, on that level with Brock. And I know a lot of people, and you might be one of them, are sick of Brock. And I'm just not, man. I just look at him like the biggest star in wrestling. What about you?
That's interesting because I don't know how to have an opinion on it because I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I kind of just feel like a lot of WWE in general is a lot of this kind of the same shit. Like, I think that's why AEW has been exciting to people because there hasn't been anything new or different or just like outside of what the normal thing we see. And
very routine.
You know what I'm
very
saying?
Routine. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. It's very. Do I dare say cookie cutter? Because I don't want to insult the talent because I know I do have some idea what it takes to do that. It takes talent to do what they do, but I just feel like it's a lot of the same. A lot of the same thing over and over again.
I agree.
And it gets like I've really gotten to the point to where like you or any of my other friends, either in the business, outside of the business, super fans, casual fans, when they go, "Oh, you watched wrestling last night? How was it?" And I'll go, and I'll totally space a space.
Nothing memorable.
Nothing memorable, and I think it being 3 hours too is kind of it's hard to watch 3 hours of wrestling every week.
Let's talk about the 24/7 championship that they just introduced. I've been watching some of this like Twitter videos that R-Truth's been posting as the champion. He calls himself the European champion. It's pretty hilarious. Honestly, I feel like they've got so many titles, but like this is something different that is going to maybe keep things entertaining on social media, and there's always something going on with this title because it can be defended at all hours of the day, and I don't know. It's something different. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a rehash of the hardcore title.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Number 2, the title is just. I mean, come on. I'm sorry, but like, it looks like a toy title. Yeah. It looks like a replica title. It looks like an outlaw indie title almost. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm okay with the idea of, hey, let's just make it simple. It's a simple title. It's a simple idea. And I kind of like the idea because it's just something else to add to the show that's a little different and a little fun, but I think we all know, if you're a wrestling fan for long enough, we all kind of know it's just going to be a downplayed thing eventually. It's just going to be another thing that no one's going to care about, or they're going to be something to have a position to put somebody there because they don't know what to do with them, or to continuously cycle storylines or whatever. And I'm not saying that that's all necessarily bad either. I understand they've got like a million pieces of talent there, and they've got to do something with all of them. They've got to write a lot for a 3-hour show. So for the sake of that, I say I'm just anxious to see where it goes, and it's either going to go like downhill for me, or it's going to have some high points where I go, oh well. Or it's going to become a part of the show, the one thing out of the 3 hours that I enjoy watching. You know what I mean?
I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to give a chance for like legends to show up and win the belt, and just I don't know. I'm feeling good about it. I think it's going to showcase a lot of talent that don't get any TV time, that maybe get to do some character work and get to hold the belt for a second, or just the drama of the whole thing.
Right. And that is definitely the positive side of it. That was kind of what I was going with both sides of it. Like, yeah, it could be a definite position to give somebody who normally doesn't get to get himself over by having a title or having a reason for the people to want to watch him, or to have a surprise element where somebody comes out that you don't expect. But then that also means there's going to be a lot of silly shit. Like, a referee is going to end up having the title, and, Renee Young's going to have the title, or, and I'm nothing against Renee Young. That's not a shot at her or anything. But you know what I mean? Where I just know eventually down the line there's going to be some silly stuff where somebody that, it's just going to be there to do silly, fun TV, which is fine too. But I just, I don't know. I'm hesitant to be excited about it. You know what I mean?
Well, we'll see what happens.
And they have too many titles. I know I sound like the old guy, but it's just like, at this point, it's like we're given participation trophies.
It's a lot of titles.
There's just a lot of titles. And I know it's an old school philosophy, but I believe the title should mean something. That was something else about AEW tonight that I was a little upset about. We really didn't get a good look at the title.
No.
They showed it, and nothing against Brett. It was a camera angle thing, and then where Brett was standing and where he was holding the title up and everything. It was just bad timing. You didn't really get a good shot of it to really see the detail of it, how it was designed and everything. So,
yeah. And I would have liked to see the Young Bucks actually win the AAA titles instead of just defend them successfully. And all those Japanese girls that came out, man, they all seemed like they had a title. So, no, I get you, man. The titles need to mean something, and hopefully AEW does take that seriously. And going outside of WWE and AEW, you've been watching Ring of Honor or New Japan or Impact? Anything standing out to you over there?
I watch it when I can. I record New Japan every week, but I don't. And it's not even like I have a fucking social life where I do things on Friday nights, where I have an excuse to not watch wrestling on Friday night. But I just always kind of space it, and then I have to go back. I'll go back on Saturday morning. I wake up on Saturday mornings usually and watch New Japan, or really late Friday night and watch it. Nothing that sticks out in my mind that is memorable. It's always when I watch it, it's always good wrestling, and I enjoy it. But nothing that really stands out other than Brian Cage winning the TNA title.
The Impact title. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. Shout out to Chico's own Brian Cage, man. He won the Impact World Championship. It was his first World Championship. I know he hurt his back real bad, but I think he's doing better. I don't think the injury was very serious. Thank God. I'm very happy for him. And Impact has been, I haven't been able to watch a lot of it, honestly. The standouts for me, I'll start with Impact. This Scarlet chick, man, she's super hot. I mean, I'm sorry, that's going to stand out. You have a real hot chick in a world that's not really embracing the hot chicks anymore. She's going to stand out. For New Japan Pro Wrestling, I think it's the same names, the Okadas,
right, yeah,
and the Tanahashis. I've been hearing Switchblade Jay White's name. I've been hearing Juice Robinson's name, but haven't been able to really watch a lot of it. And then for ROH, that's a show that actually comes on my TV every Saturday, so I'll be able to check that out here and there. But again, the Briscoe brothers to me stand out a lot. To see the Briscoe brothers versus the Usos would be amazing right now for tag. And you could throw the Young Bucks in there and the New Day, whatever. But to me, the Briscoe brothers and the Usos are the two best tag teams in pro wrestling. And the Briscoe brothers are the best thing outside of WWE and AEW, in my opinion.
They've been kind of the best thing for a while. They've been a good tag team for a long time.
You seen their promos, bro?
I don't know how I spaced them in my mind until you mentioned them, and that's another thing. I don't always get a chance to watch Ring of Honor. So what I do know of Ring of Honor are clips that I see on YouTube, or little highlights here and there, or I'll get on the social media and somebody will mention something or say something, and then I'll kind of find out what's going on through that. But I haven't been able to actually. It's been a long time since I've been able to sit down and watch a full Ring of Honor show.
Have you seen the Briscoe Brothers promos, man? Any of their recent promos?
No, not their recent promos, but I am aware that of their promos. That
really good.
Yeah, I enjoy their promos a lot. I just haven't come across them or seen them.
Really good, and also I think we got to mention Billy Corgan's really putting some work into the NWA, starting that back up.
I was gonna mention the Briscoes and the Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah,
I thought that was. I actually enjoyed that match. Like, it was for a group of old guys. I got to admit, man, it was a really good match. And I like I agree with you. I like what Billy Corgan's doing. He's rejuvenating the old school. He's kind of doing what a lot of things do. When music, clothing fads come back around and it becomes popular again. I think the very simple, even the ring, the way the ring was set up for that Ring of Honor NWA show was it was just really down to bare basics, real simple colors, simple letters, simple everything. Mm-hmm. But the matches were really old school, and it was real classic NWA. I'm really glad that I'd like to see NWA kind of further kind of step up and be a little bit of a bigger player in the game of wrestling. I don't know where fans would put them in the list of promotions. I don't know. I don't know who's number 2 or number 3, or I don't know where they're placed now, because there's so many of them.
There's a good amount.
But I think NWA is definitely it's worth watching.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to really watch the in-ring stuff, but going back to the Briscoes, I did. That's where I've been seeing their promos lately. If they've been going after the NWA, and just. I don't know, man. They're definitely something to look into, like you said. Closing this thing out, man, let's talk about, I know we both love our podcasts. Obviously, we're sitting here talking on one. And besides this podcast, of course, Mitch, please, what are some of your favorite wrestling podcasts out there right now that you just can't miss?
Well, we both were kind of marking out the Grilling JR. I think that's cool that Conrad Thompson is giving JR kind of an opportunity outside of his own podcast to sort of open up a little and talk about his career in not a, hey, look at me, this is my career. It's like the way Conrad approaches it is pretty cool, because he really just approaches it like, hey, like a very casual conversation. Hey, so what was doing this like? Or how did this happen? And so on and so on.
Who booked this shit?
Right. I love it. Yeah, I love that. I always love Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette just always cracks me up.
He's hilarious.
And I always love his immense knowledge on wrestling. His recommendations are always good, too. He's always got a book or a film or something to recommend. So I get a lot of recommendations from him. Something to wrestle with is always fun. I think all the podcasts where you get an opportunity to kind of delve into the mind of whoever the host of the podcast is interviewing them, I think it can't possibly be bad. I mean, it's pretty safe to say Conrad Thompson's like the podcast king at this point. Like, I mean, he's pretty much got a handle on it. He's got one almost every week.
Every day, yeah. I like Conrad. I listen to all of them. I don't like the Tony Schiavone one. I'm just not into Schiavone's voice or whatever it is. I'm just not interested in that one. Plus, I got so many to listen to.
Right. I just think it's fucking hilarious. Give one of the watch-alongs a chance,
I will.
because they're a lot of fun. You just they always do a countdown so you can go to the network.
Yeah. No, I've
at the same time.
Yep.
And even when I use it or when I listen to it, my timing isn't far off, so it's not annoying. You're not more than a couple seconds off if you do it right. But it's really interesting because you get Shivani's take, on what he can remember. A lot of stuff he's like, I don't, he won't remember it, or he doesn't have a recollection of it, or he'll go, well, I wasn't around for that, or I was too busy doing what I was supposed to be concerned with, or whatever. But then there's other stuff too where where they really discuss what it was like to work with certain people, and they analyze the matches, and they even, it's kind of cool for me. I don't know if other people enjoy it, but I think it's kind of funny to hear Shivani get his first impression on things he missed out on when he left the business and did baseball for so long. So he's watched like ECW shows, and his genuine, honest response is like, holy shit, like, wow, look at what these guys were doing. I had no idea that these guys were doing this. This was the kind of thing they were doing. And his response is very genuine, like, even when he sees something that's really hardcore, and he's like, oh, fuck, why would you want to do that spot, or why would you want to bump on that table, or whatever. It's fun to hear his responses. And they also fuck around a lot. Like, I mean, they crack jokes a lot, and they sort of do little ribs and do little, poke little shots at the guys and stuff, and do little inside jokes. So it's kind of fun.
It was like one of Conrad's first podcasts. I feel like I'm just too far behind too, but no, I'll check it out. And kind of gave me an idea. Maybe we'll do a watch along on this show sometime to something. But for me, man, yeah, Conrad's awesome. The Something to Wrestle With, the Grillin' JR. I like 83 Weeks. Jericho has a good podcast. Stone Cold hasn't been around, and he hasn't done a podcast all year. I just heard he's doing a show on the USA Network, which is similar to a podcast. And then just
Busted Open. I really like
Busted Open's good. Yeah,
I've been listening to that a lot. I forgot that Bubba has a.
Bubba's great.
Yeah, I really enjoy. You can tell that he's really genuinely intrigued with whoever he's talking to, and like really interested. So that's kind of why. But I don't know. There's a handful. Like even Sean Mooney has a podcast. Like everybody in wrestling, and his podcast actually isn't too bad. I heard one with Duke the Dumpster Drosy, and believe it or not, it was a really interesting interview. Because you would never think to want to know anything about Duke the Dumpster Drosy, but once you get into hearing about his experience with the business, I didn't know that he had a big a big issue with drinking and drugs, and it caused him to lose his foot or his leg. Yeah. He's like crippled because of it now, and it was just, there's stuff. It was just interesting. I didn't think anything about it, and I didn't know anything about it. So when you hear it, you're kind of like shocked. But a lot of guys have podcasts now, and I enjoy most of them. I'll give a lot of them a chance, but there are some that I have listened to, and I'm just kind of like, all right, this isn't my thing, Or
Edge and Christian are fun, but for me,
I haven't heard theirs.
It's fun. It's fun, and they have a lot of good guests. But for me, I'm a big fan of the Taz show, man. To me, there's a reason he's on CBS Sports Radio, and there's a reason why I still think he's probably one of the best commentators in the business, and he's just really fun and informative, and he just pulls no punches and just tells it like it is. I don't know. For me, that's a big inspiration of why I did this show, and I just give so much respect. And I credit to Taz. And going back to the beginning of this whole thing, I really, really wish we would have got Taz on AEW Double or Nothing, and I hope he shows up and calls a match or something down the line.
I hope they find a better counterpart for JR. Yeah. I mean, seriously, and like I really don't want to talk bad about anybody. I mean, good for them. They have that job. It's cool. They have a really super rad job, and good for them. But on one end, one guy was like, in certain instances, was a little too over the top or trying to be over the top. And then the other guy was just so lackluster of like any enthusiasm for anything. And then poor JR was in the center trying to keep everything together and trying to be the analyst of the group. But again, it was their first outing, and so you can't be too critical. It was their first pay-per-view, and it was pretty good for their first pay-per-view.
Well, let's be real. AEW, Jim Ross, You need Bradley Rotten and Mitch Valentine. I think that's what it comes down to. I think it'd be a great show. You'd get some excitement, some credibility, and just if they want to do that, Brad, we got to close it out here. How do you find Bradley Rotten on social media, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff, man?
You can find me on the Twitter, which I don't use very often, but if I ever get my podcast out, I will start using it more so at Bradley Rotten, of course. And you can find Bradley Rotten on Facebook as well. I mean, I'm on both those platforms. I use them very, I guess, sparingly. But, when I'm not talking about wrestling, I'm doing music. So, and I don't always talk about wrestling on social media. But from time to time, like, maybe tomorrow I'll post a thing or two about AEW because it was a very exciting thing. But yeah, I'm there. You can find me. You can reach me there.
Well, you talked about wrestling today on Mitch Please, man. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Always look forward to having you back.
Thanks for having me, man.
This is episode 37 of Mitch Please. We are parked outside the historic Maltese, getting ready for an open mic out here in Chico, California. Alongside me is one of my really good friends. Real excited to welcome him to the show for the very first time. Give it up for Dillon Collins.
Right on, man. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm happy to do it.
Oh, yeah, man. We've been talking about it for a while, and it's good to finally have you on. You're actually the youngest person to ever be on this show, bro. What an honor.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's awesome. And this is the first podcast I've ever done, So
is it really? Sweet, dude.
I know, and you're like, what, 35 episodes in? Is that what this is going to be?
Yeah, this is episode 37.
37? So. All right, so we're off to a good start with plugging stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, man, you're great, bro. I've known you for a year and a half or whatever, and just seeing you progress over the years, and I know you got a good story to tell, so let's just tell the damn story, dude. Where are you from? What the hell happened in your earlier life?
So I was born out in Colorado, in Loveland. Moved out to California when I was 10 months old because, my parents were doing a bunch of drugs and stuff, so I went to live with my grandparents. Grew up in Fremont until I was 12, and then moved out to Chico.
Well, hold up. So parents did a bunch of drugs.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that'd be tough, right? Dealing with that kind of situation as a kid?
It would be tough dealing with that situation, but I was lucky enough to get out of that situation, so I didn't really have to, impact my life in the same way it could have. It certainly affected my life, but didn't leave lasting scars or anything like that.
Were you mainly raised by your grandparents?
Yeah, since I was 10 months, pretty much they were the household I lived in and grew up in. I'd visitations with my mom and stuff sometimes, and my dad was always around, so it wasn't an issue on that part, but yeah, visitations till I was probably 11 years old, 10 years old. Hated that, man. I was driving out from Fremont to San Jose every weekend, and then my mom had this like brilliant idea to move up to Chico, and driving up to Chico and back. A lot of driving, man, for a weekend at your like at a distant family member, relationship, or you know what I mean.
No, I got you, man. It sounds,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do. And it sounds like it's something that, is not the easiest thing in the world maybe to deal with, but to have a supportive, loving grandma and grandpa, you got to be thankful for that. And what other things were you into, growing up, maybe in your early days as a teenager? What were some of the things that you really, really got into? I know you're a baseball player.
Yeah, I played baseball since I was 5, up until high school. I should have made the high school team. I was smoking weed and not committing to, bettering my life, so I fucked that up. There's certainly regrets, in life, and that's, probably the biggest one, I think, is fucking up baseball in high school. But I still play sometimes. Hopefully we get the team back together in an adult league, It's fun to still play. And it's cool now because I'm the youngest guy out at the baseball field, same way I'm the youngest guy at comedy. Everybody's just broken down and just
Yep, you're the 22 years old, right?
22 years old.
Yeah. 22 years old, man. You played baseball since you were 5, and you still play it? Like, what position?
I started out playing like shortstop and stuff. Now, for my team, I'll play wherever. You know, if we got some guy that can't play first base, then I'd rather go play first base, and he can play right field or something like that. But I don't really play shortstop as much anymore. But that was always my spot when I was young and when I was good at baseball.
Yeah, man. It sounds like baseball kind of kept you focused throughout your life. Maybe dealing with whatever you were dealing with. Like baseball was the one thing that kept you focused. But then you said you kind of smoked a little bit of weed and kind of that got you in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, just you can smoke weed and not get in trouble. I was just fucking stupid. It was literally all my fault. I got caught smoking weed twice. Once in junior high, and then the next year, freshman year in high school. First time I got caught smoking weed, when I was in the bathroom, smoking weed with my friend Bleezy Hamilton. I'll give him a shout out.
Shout out to Bleezy.
Yeah, and we were in the bathroom stall together, and when a teacher walks in and there's two boys in the same stall, and it's locked, there's no good explanation for that. You're gonna be like, no, we were just sucking each other's dicks. Nothing to see here. No, we got caught. It was fucking obvious.
I got you, man. So, I mean, that had to be kind of, like, tough, though, because, like, baseball seemed to be, like, that was one of your passions or whatever, and then, like, that kind of made you kind of fall back on it a little bit. I mean, what were you able to do in baseball, like, in high school?
I played a little bit of Legion ball. I never got to the nuts. I played with the Suns for at least 2 or 3 fall seasons and 2 seasons. But
and where was this at? In Chico?
Yeah, the Chico Suns. They're our local American Legion baseball team. Okay. It's it would be cool to grow up now because there's so many clubs and stuff. There would have been a spot that I could have gotten better because Legion ball is really not the best thing to do. Legion ball's fallen off a lot.
I got you. So
you just lost all your American Legion freaking listeners.
Yeah, well, oh man, that's a big hit. Get it? Because it's baseball. It's a big hit. So what else, man? So baseball, I mean, what are some of the things that you were into, like music-wise, or maybe like there was a celebrity or a comedian or a entertainer that kind of just maybe motivated you or inspired you?
Music, I never really, I think I was, like, damaged early on, when you're, like, sexually abused and then you're just, like, can't get in a committed relationship. That's, like, what happened to me with music. Like, I don't really remember. I listened to classical music until I was, like, way too old, because I was just, like, sheltered by, like, my, like, Beethoven and Mozart. So all of a sudden people had, like I think when American Idiot came out was when that might have been, like, the first album I bought, back in, like, 2004 or whatever. That was a long time ago. But even music now, not a big music guy. As far as comedy, the first stand-up I ever heard was when Dane Cook was huge. I think he had just released his first album. It was Harmful If Swallowed.
Right.
That shit was good, man.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
Fuck the haters, dude.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I'm
still a fan.
Me too.
He was an early influence for sure.
Dude, Dane Cook was a huge influence for me. Harmful If Swallowed, really, what was the one that came after that? Vicious Circle, man, was really, I watched that 50 times.
I know there was 3. Was there 4 that he came out with? The run before he, like, went and did a bunch of movies that all sucked, and, like, fucking, then everybody started hating him.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, Dane Cook was he was a good performer with comedy, but then I didn't feel like his movies were that good. People said he stole jokes. I mean, whatever. I don't know. But I just felt like, he was somebody that was...
I just can't believe that how mad people were getting about a joke about itchy assholes. Like, that's the joke that I think that Louis was really mad about, that he had to go, like, fucking on his show and get, like, put on blast. Like, how funny are itchy assholes that he's, like, just heard Louis do that, and he's like, that shit's mine, dude. I'm taking that, and I'm gonna tell that. I can't wait to say that on stage. I wouldn't even want to tell that joke. It would be kind of a burden just to know how funny that bit would, if it's a funny bit, and just have to go out there and talk about my itchy asshole on stage. I would if it was my best joke. I mean, I'd have no choice.
No, I hear you. I don't know, man. I didn't really look into all the theories about him stealing jokes or whatever, man. Like I was a fan. Like whatever. You were a fan. Who else? Who else did you like?
When George Carlin died, that was I just didn't like comedy. You know, I didn't know about like stand up or anything. Probably seen bits of like Chris Rock and stuff like that when I was young,
right?
On like Showtime or whatever guys were coming out around then. But when George Carlin died, I watched a bunch of his stuff because it was fucking, my grandparents were into that, so that was another early influence. I read his book when I was really young, Last Words, and I read it like, I don't know what I was thinking, like reading this autobiography of like a stand-up comedian. Like it must have there was definitely signs that I was gonna want to, you know, get on stage and do comedy pretty early on.
Yeah, and I want to get into that, man. Get into your little, you're not little, but your journey here into comedy. But before that, what else, man? I just want to get into Dillon Collins, the younger version, because I know the current one. And like, what about like, you know, baseball seems to be one of your main passions. Who are some of your favorite players, or what about baseball really got you going?
I remember the first year I played baseball when I was in T-ball. It was 2002 when the Angels were playing the Giants in the World Series. And I was on the Angels in baseball, so I was just naturally like an Angels fan. And like I lived in a family that didn't really, my grandparents didn't watch baseball on TV. My grandma just thought it would be a good way to, you know, not fuck up like my parents did. You know, they're like, oh, let's get them involved in like something. And I liked it. Good. But I wore my Angels jersey to Game 6 of the World Series. It was at this place called Jack's Sports Bar in Fremont. The place was filled with Giants fans. And the Giants fucked that game up. And the bar was just, like, everybody was happy. Like, the Giants were going to win for sure. And then it was just, like, fucking silent. Like, you could hear a pin drop. And I'm in there like, yeah, fuck yeah, go Angels.
That's classic, man. That's classic. I could just picture you doing that too. That big old smile on your face, man.
And my grandparents were like, we should probably get the fuck out of here.
Oh shit. All right, man. Let's get into it, man. What inspired you to do comedy? When was the moment that you felt you needed to do it? And when was the moment you actually did it?
I started kind of looking for open mics and stuff. I'd look in the newspaper. Like I didn't know how to find like the Chico. I didn't know the Chico comedy scene, like Facebook thing existed. Or I wish I did a lot earlier, and so I could have done been a part of things and gotten started really early when like The Last Stand was in Chico and.
But 20-year-old Dillon Collins is reading the newspaper and listening to classical music?
Yeah, dude. I was like more like 18-year-old. I knew I wanted to do it. I stalked the Has-Beens open mic a couple times, but I could just never imagine getting up there and just fucking... When you're afraid to go do it, you're afraid to bomb, because it's gonna happen, like, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's like being afraid to hit the water when somebody's telling you to jump off a cliff. Like, it's inevitable. Like, but... So I never did it there. I waited until, like, right after I turned 21 and went to the Down Low. That was the first place I went. I remember talking about going to open mics when I was like 19. I I'd moved out of my grandparents for a little less than a year into a friend's house. They had a lease that somebody needed to, take over. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. I'll go party and shit all the time. And my roommate, Gustavo, was like also into comedy, and he was kind of like showed similar interest as far as like, oh yeah, I write stuff down. Like, we never really talked about it that much. But I remember maybe a year after we moved out, he drove down to Roseville, and he didn't tell me about this because he was fucking mad at me. But he drove down to Roseville and did an open mic at Bar 101, and it fucking like he just like ate a dick so bad that he was like doing George Lopez impersonations. Wow.
So this was,
but just like hearing about somebody else like going and doing that, and you're like, oh, dude, there's no way it could be worse than like that. Kind of inspired me to just like, what the fuck am I waiting for, dude?
So you scouted a couple open mics, Has-Beens. You said you scouted them at the Down Low.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you telling me that you showed up at one of those events I did at Shenanigans or whatever. Was there other events too? I mean, how long were you contemplating this and you know, kind of, you know, creeping on these shows, right? Not creeping, but like just probably a little bit. But like you're there, you're in the audience, like nobody, you know, nobody knows you, right? Because you're just there, by yourself? I mean, just kind of checking things out.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
how
most
long?
attention I'm getting is, you know, my ID checked in the front.
Yeah.
I probably 2 years just coming out. Like that was probably 2 years before I started comedy when you had your show at Shenanigans that I went to. I'd say maybe a little less than that, but that was the first you know, experience like with the Chico comedy scene. You know, I think Scott was on that show and Dawn and you know, I forget who else, but there was Mark Leathers headlined it.
Yeah. Now, were you starting to write and get some stuff out your head and on the paper, or?
Oh yeah, dude, I'd been writing stuff like for fucking probably since high school. Like I have all my old phones and stuff saved. I know I'll never go through any of the old notes or anything. Like it's just not gonna happen. But it's all there, and I know there's probably fun like shit in there that's funny.
Yeah, you should go through it.
Yeah, I know I should. So someday, man. You know, this is a revelation right here. Like, stop the podcast. I'm gonna go get my old phones, write some jokes before this open mic tonight.
No, I feel it, man. Because like I just remember like going back and watching stuff that I did like 5 years ago, and like a lot of I don't do any of it, but then like there's some of it, right? That it's like some of this stuff is actually decent. Maybe I can play with it. So like going back 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, in stuff that you wrote. I mean, I'm sure you could do something with it. But let's talk about that first night, man. That first night you got on a microphone. I mean, had you done anything like at school, like public speaking, anything for baseball? I mean, obviously you're in front of a crowd with baseball, but I mean, did you have any experience? Maybe a theater play? I mean, anything, being in front of a crowd, performing, the spotlight's on you.
Yeah, I had signed up for public speaking my second semester at Butte, and I dropped the class like probably way too late. I think it's still on my transcript because I just fucking flaked. I thought it would be a good idea. I think that's why people take a comedy class, because it forces you to do the graduation show. Like it basically gives you the push if you're not willing to just jump yourself.
Okay.
I did, but I ended up taking the public speaking class again, and it's pretty much the same as doing comedy, honestly. But I went up there with like my notes and shit, and I was just like a fucking nervous wreck. I have the videos for that too. I think they're pretty funny, probably.
For what now? Your public speaking?
For my public speaking class. I did like one 10-minute speech on methamphetamine use or something. I think that was my the crown jewel.
And this is just in front of your classmates at Butte College.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did this class. It was like slam poetry. I forget the name of the class, but we were basically looking through books or movies and shit, and finding content and then splicing it all together. We were stealing, is what we were doing. We were just stealing other people's shit and making it our own. And for one of the
well, Dane Cook's your inspiration.
I know. As a shout out to Dane Cook.
Poor
too.
Dane, man. I love Dane though. Straight up, I still love Dane. I saw him live like 2 years ago. Dude's great. Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I took this class, and I took some of Bill Burr's stand-up and somebody else. I think Doug Stanhope and Jim Norton. It was just this horrendously offensive bit. It was where Bill Burr talks about how being a mother isn't the hardest job, and then Doug Stanhope has this bit about hookers taking it in the ass, and it was just it was just so out there in front of this total liberal PC is diversity days crowd in my class. But it was fun, and I think that was also the same feeling you get when you do comedy,
Yeah.
And it goes well. Obviously that didn't go well, but I didn't realize how bad it went at the time. I thought it was fun.
Got you. So all right. So like I said, let's get into that first night where you got in front of a crowd at comedy open mic. Where was it? When was it? How'd it go?
It was down low open mic. It was on a Friday. It went. I couldn't. The microphone, the cord was wrapped all the way around this the stand. It was fucking, and I should have just unwound it like in front of the crowd just to make a fucking point. But I went up there and I couldn't even pull the mic out, and it wasn't loud enough. I have the video, and sometimes some of the jokes that I told that night I continued to do for a while.
So this is like the down low on a Friday, so it wasn't like a traditional comedy open mic, right? It was like the music,
right?
And you were probably the only comedian, huh?
Right. It was a mixed mic, and I think that I probably was. I don't know how many guys. Nobody goes to the down low open mic in the scene. I'm trying to start going again soon, but yeah, like they're just so unprepared for it. Like there's never comedy, and all of a sudden some weird fucking 21-year-old kid's like, I have jokes. Like,
so how'd it go the first time?
It was fun, man. You know,
I mean, the cord was wrapped up. You couldn't grab the damn mic.
Besides for me not being able to pull the mic out of the thing, nobody hearing me, nobody wanting to see me, like, I'm still doing it.
Well, how'd it feel though? You finally did it, man. You got up there, and there was however many people, and you did your material, and you did it. And how did it feel after?
It felt good, man. That's why you keep doing it. That's why you come to an open mic that you might have low expectations for, and you just go grind it out anyway, just because it's going to be worth it in the end. There is a payoff. Like, when shit goes well, it's worth all the terrible times.
Yeah. I look at open mics like training, man. Straight up, like I used to train twice a week in a wrestling ring to get ready for the show, right? That would be once every month or whatever, every 2 weeks. But I'd be training for the show, and like open mics, man, we're training to get those bookings for those shows, where people are paying money to see comedy. So from the download, did you go to the studio? Did you come to the Maltese? I mean, you hit them both, or what was the next step?
I think what happened is I did the Friday open mic at the Down Low, and then I came on Monday and did the Mug Monday night at the Maltese.
Was this like 17, 18?
2017, okay. I believe. It was like August of 2017.
Okay, that makes sense.
I could figure out the exact date, but nobody gives a shit, so...
Well, okay, so, I mean, you had... I give a shit. But no, our hundreds and thousands of listeners here on Mitch Please, man, are dying to know. It was probably August
of 17. They can dig deep. I think that if you look in... It was like the first Friday in August in 2017.
I met you in... that's probably like 4 or 5 months, maybe... Yeah, about 4 or 5 months after that, like February of 2018, so... Cool, man. So, I mean, for 4 or 5 months before I met you, you're at the Maltese every Monday. You're at the Studio Inn. How was the first time at the Studio Inn?
Man, I didn't have a good set at the Studio Inn, and it took like 6 months before I had a good set there. That was really the reality, and the Maltese too, but especially at the Studio Inn. I just never did well. Like, it probably took like 2 months before anybody even learned my name. They were like, "Oh, this fucking guy again."
Well, that's where I met you, man. I was at the Studio Inn, and I was like, man, you had your baseball gear on, like you just came from a game, and I was like, man, is this kid even old enough to be in here? I'm sure a lot of people had the same thing. Young looking kid, and
well, and also at a bar like the Studio, and they're like, why is a kid this young in here? Like, no,
what's wrong with him?
Yeah, probably just came from Quackers.
Yeah. No, man, you still are, man. You're a humble, nice guy, and it was great to meet you, and and watch you, and I saw potential in you right away. Like, I'm like, man, this guy, he's only been doing it for a couple months, but it's like he's got, like, you had that, and I still think you should tell it more. I don't even think you tell it anymore. The baby shower joke that I just think is great, because it always gets, like, that's something. The first time I saw you told that joke, and I was like, wow, that was like deep writing, and it has that reaction where it's like, oh, and they're all groaning, and then they start laughing, and it's like, that's a hard reaction to get, man.
I know, I love that joke, man. I just can't bring myself to be, to tell that joke, in front of somebody that's, it just seems too hacky, man. It's just not. That's how the reaction I want from jokes, but I don't want to tell that joke to get there.
I gotcha. Well, it made an impression in my mind, and I mean, just like I said, meeting you was great.
I brought it back a couple times. I think I told it at Touch of Class one time, and that's that room will let you know what they think about a joke for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. We just did that mic a couple weeks ago. But what was so like I said, I met you in early 2018. You'd been doing comedy for a couple months, and here we are. It's summer 2019. What was the first show you were booked on as a comedian?
It was your show. I think it was probably the third installment of Whitewater Saloon in Paradise. Okay.
I thought like Bob or Eve or somebody booked you as well.
No, I'm still waiting on those bookings. But we'll drop my email in the.
We will. We're gonna get to some plugs and we're gonna talk about everything that we got going on now, which is a lot, man. You've come such a long way in such a short amount of time. But yeah, no, that's cool that I was the first one to book you. Gee, I had no idea. It's how ironic to bring that up here on this podcast. But no, I mean, dude, honestly, like that's one of the joys of booking shows is to book people for their first time. To be like, all right, I don't care however you're feeling or whatever, like, however you're feeling about what you're doing, like, I see something in you, like, you deserve to be booked on a show, and then, like, to see people like yourself, man, just keep going up and up and up and up, like, it's a cool thing, it is. So, yeah, no, I remember, of course, those Whitewater Saloon days. I booked on a couple of those excursions. And what else, man? Besides that, like, what else stands out as far as shows you've been doing here, in the last year or so?
Well, the one that when you hosted the Reading Comedy on Tap, when Alice Rodriguez headlined there, and you brought me along with you, and we worked it out where I got to do some time before after you opened the show, and then I did some time, and then Ellis, like, I'm not gonna say that I featured or I opened because it was just a lucky spot, but meeting him, and I got a good clip from that was big. Like, meeting him got opened the door to going and doing the Pro-Am Laughs Unlimited, without having to bring fucking anybody, like what they expect. And,
let's talk about Ellis real quick, man, because that is just somebody that I hope to get on this show one day, and like, it's definitely someone that made an impression on me. Obviously, made an impression on you, dude. He's amazing. I've seen him only a couple times, but that guy is amazing. I think he gave us some awesome advice. I mean, what were some of the things maybe that he said to you that you really that you took with you after that night at Woody's Brewing in Reading?
Well, it always feels good to have a good set in front of somebody that's, important, and he was hella good, too. He went up there and did an hour, and he crushed.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, it was nice to have that experience, for sure. All because that's why you gotta go do shit. If you don't go do anything, then nothing's gonna happen for you. Like, it would have been real easy to just be like, no, man, like, you're gonna go do that show. Like, I just kind of went because I just wanted to be part of shit, and it worked out fucking really well.
Yeah, man. I mean, you got booked at Laughs Unlimited. I mean, you got booked at the Punchline.
Not necessarily booked at Laughs. Like, we did their, Pro-Am open mic, but
yeah. We'll talk about
still a cool stage to get on and shit.
Yeah, and then the Punchline, bro. Like, you got booked at the Punchline. Like, tell me how was that?
That clip from the night at Woody's Brewing is what I sent into Kabir Singh, and he put me on one of his shows, and it was fucking awesome. Punchline, dude, it's fucking. Laughs Unlimited is cool, man, but the Punchline was pretty special.
It's like surreal, right? Like, you walk up there, because I think I was booked the month before you were, and like to walk up there and like go through there's a damn metal detector, and then there's all these, legends on the wall, bro, and you're just like, wow, I'm here on this stage where, and then there's a green room. That was my first time, being booked at a comedy show for me, where there's a real green room. Like, it's a real big deal. I mean, that had to feel good, bro. At 22 years old.
Oh yeah, no, dude, it was awesome. But there's people that start even younger. It's all kind of perspective.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And like you said, man, it's all about just getting out there, doing the work, and if you don't get out there, then I mean, no one's gonna see you, you know. And
Right.
you're getting out there, bro. You're getting out there. I'm super proud of everything you're doing. You're hosting your own show now at Unwind. You just had your first one back in April, right? You got your next one coming up on May 30th. Tell me how the Unwind gig came about.
So just reaching out and trying to make shit happen. And they have a really cool showroom. They had been doing some magic shows with Dean Waters, and they were very successful. So they were looking at adding a comedy night probably anyway. And it just worked out that I'm willing to kind of put in the work for it and try to sell the tickets and make it happen. You know, want to bring that comedy club environment to Chico.
Well, you did make it happen, bro. You sold out your first show. I was there, sitting in the crowd. Loved it. I thought it was great. How did it feel? I mean, it's your first show. You sell it out. It's a classy, nice establishment. It ain't the Whitewater Saloon, let me tell you. Right. This is a nice, classy, you know, high-end deal, you know, and you sold it out and you hosted it. It was very, very fun to watch. And how'd it feel for you?
You know, it was cool and shit. Like, I'm glad everything worked out. It was a lot of stress kind of off my shoulders once it was over. It's kind of like when you do your first open mic. You're like, oh, fuck it. Thank God it's over. Yeah. But it was a great night. Went well. It was very successful. The show was fucking killer. Like, I couldn't have scripted it any better. But basically, just like, now, when are we going to do the next one?
Yeah, well, May 30th, and we'll get all the details for that in just a second, man. Just a couple more questions here before we close this out. Who are some of your... who are some of your favorite people maybe in the Chico comedy scene, or just people that you've met through comedy that have kind of helped you or molded you or whatever, man? People that you just feel like you can learn from or get good advice from. I mean, we talked about Ellis Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. I mean, who else would you say?
I mean, Phil from Chico for sure.
Absolutely.
Definitely the, you know, couldn't ask for a better friend to fucking show me the ropes and stuff, because he's been out there doing it. And it's kind of interesting when you see guys come in and a joke stands out that you're like, wow, that shit's fucking hilarious. Like, I wish I wrote that joke. Yep. That's when Bob Backstrom had one of his comedy nights. He had Anthony K headline it, and I specifically remember him fucking just crushing. And I was like, holy shit, dude, like, that's what it takes to be a professional at this, to come in and just like, because you don't know what your audience is going to look like or anything like that. Like, it might be fucking nobody in the crowd for all you know. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, obviously the show went well, but just to see him come in and fucking crush like that, and he's going to be the fucking headline at May 30th.
Yeah, man, he's your headliner May 30th at Unwind. And last question, man, before we get in all these plugs and everything we're doing, because I'm sure your answer to this is going to be, it hasn't happened yet. But if you can think of everything you've done in the short amount of time you've been doing it in comedy, what's been your favorite maybe show or moment or event that you were a part of?
My favorite moment, the comedy festival, to get, you know, put on and get a spot, that was pretty, it felt good. It was like, fucking thank goodness, like,
yes,
it was a moment of kind of like recognition where I was like, thank God this is happening. When I went down to Santa Cruz and did the Blue Lagoon, that was fucking a really fun night. I had a bunch of family come out, my cousins and stuff. Nice. That was a cool night, and then getting to see Jim Norton the next night. It's a big comedy weekend.
Yeah, and shout out to DNA too, man. He's the Santa Cruz guy. He runs that Chico Comedy Festival, and I was real happy to see him put you on there at La Broca, right?
Yeah, I was very happy to fill in, and, you know, what ended up happening is somebody had flaked, and the schedule was fucked up. We were in a great room. No, but there was time to fill, and TJ Hudson was like, hey, man, you need to fucking get in there and fill this time, because I was pretty much the fill-in at that point. I know, you know your spot. Like, you're not gonna be like, no, I'm the headliner, I go up when my time says I go up. Like, I went up there and I got extra time out of it, so it was cool.
Dillon the fill-in.
Yep, that's gonna be my nickname.
There you go. It'll work, man. It'll definitely work. And what else is gonna work, man, is everything that we have going on here. Because I'm saying because we're doing a lot of events together in June. But May 30th, man, Thursday, Unwind. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the doors are going to open at 5:30, show at 7. We got Annie Fisher, TJ Hudson, Scott Powers, and Anthony K headlining it. It's going to be a fucking great night, man. I'm trying to push these last tickets before, this is the Sunday right before the Sunday before the storm, pretty much.
Yeah, as we record this is Sunday, and how many tickets you got left right now? You're about to sell it out again, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got 4 of the online tickets, and they're handling some tickets at the restaurant, so there'll be some extra ones. I'd imagine allow some people in at the door.
Make sure you get your tickets. Get on Eventbrite, right, and just get those damn things before you miss out on another opportunity to see what's going on at Unwind with your host Dillon Collins, your headliner Anthony K. I mean, it's going to be great, man. And what else we got going on in June?
Yeah, we got the show up in Paradise, the beautiful event at the rec center, right?
Yeah, man, June 15th, 5 to 7 p.m. It's going to be a free, family-friendly variety show. Yourself, Germ Leather, Ms. Alma, Robin Valentine, Low Key Miller. I've got Stephen Murray, and I've also got a special surprise. There's going to be like a dance group, man. They're gonna get down and boogie at the Paradise Rec Center, man, on June 15th. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be hosting that event. And yeah, real excited to have you a part of that event, man. That same day, later on, that night actually, at the Spirit Venue in Oroville, it's going to be Ms. Alma, live, uncut, and uncensored, doing her thing as a featured headliner, with also yourself, man, Dillon Collins, and right, Germ Leather, and myself hosting. So that's going to be awesome, no doubt about it. What else you got going on, man, for June?
I've got, I'm doing, Bob Backstrom has booked me on his show. I'm doing, can't remember the date, but there'll be a Facebook event and all that good stuff. There's no way that I won't be notifying everybody.
Yeah, Bob's comedy show at the Maltese.
That's right. That'll be fun. There's some cool headliners. I think Xander Beltran is headlining it, and John Gabb's going to be there. I've never met those guys, but I see their names around, so it'll be cool to. It's kind of fun when it turns into a small world. And you're like, go to open mic down, and then all of a sudden you're booked on a show with somebody and you didn't even realize it. That's what happened down in, when I went to Oakland. I met this guy, Alex Woody, and he's like, dude, we're booked on the same show up in Sacramento the next Saturday. It's just fucking kind of weird, man. But yeah, we got some shows and stuff. I'm going to have another show at the Maltese in August. I think the date is still to be determined, but it'll be the first Friday or Saturday. And we're going to be doing roast battle at the Maltese, so it'll be cool. Trying to put on more shows and hopefully an open mic or something in the works.
Nice, dude. A lot of things.
Too soon to announce anything on that.
No, man. Keep it under wraps until it's time to unveil, And no, man, it's always a good time with you, bro. I get to get in the car with you. We travel around. We hit these mics, man. We just get better, and it's great. It's great. I couldn't ask for a better person to do it with, and I couldn't ask for a better guest here on Mitch Please. Dillon Collins, man, where can people find more out about you on social media?
Definitely on my Instagram, Dillon_J_Collins, and my Facebook, and you can always like my Facebook page too, but I understand if you don't have time for that shit.
Love it, brother. Thank you so much, man. And as I close the show here, I just want to go ahead again and plug these Pro Championship Entertainment events that we have going on. We did not mention June 7th at the Red Light Room in Marysville. We're going to have John Ross headlining. Going to have Phil from Chico as the opener. I'll be hosting that event. Tickets aren't cheap, but I'll tell you what, they're going quick. And if you want to have a good time, enjoy some good food and fancy drinks and a great environment with some hilarious comedians, check that out. June 7th, Red Light Room, Marysville. And there's an Eventbrite for that. Again, Pro Championship Entertainment on Facebook. Oh gosh, brother, I got Team Valentine on Facebook. I got Mitch Marketing on Facebook. Of course, this podcast, Mitch Please Podcast. Check it out on Facebook. YouTube.com/The Mitch Valentine for all the videos and fun stuff I have going on there. At Heartbreaker MV on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. And that's going to be it for this episode, guys. It's been a jam-packed one. Thank you to Bradley Rotten. Thank you to my guest, Dillon Collins. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you share it. And make sure you make dreams happen. And here at Mitch Please, it's all love.